Hey guys, Nili here, and I am coming in for another video about the things that have worked for me to tweak my diet and my lifestyle to help me start losing fat again. I'll go over it again. I basically didn't lose any weight after my daughter was born a year ago, and I just kind of lost the initial weight from delivery and then spent a year just trying to eat healthy and trying tweaks and things, and didn't get anywhere as far as weight loss goes. And I finally shook some things up and drew from some other resources, and I have gotten the scale to start going down again, fat loss to continue, and my body to start changing again. So I wanted to share those things with you. I did one video a week or so ago on the diet cure. That is a big thing that I did that helped me a lot. And now I want to continue and let you know about the next thing that has helped me tremendously in the way I think about food, the way I structure my meals, the way I think about fat loss. It's just been a huge resource for me, and it is, the book, I'll show you the book. It is Lose Weight Here by Jade Teta and Keone Teta. I think they're brothers. And this is a fairly new book within the last couple of years, I think, but I have been following Jade's work with Metabolic effect for a long time, and so his concepts and the way he talks about metabolism and such has shaped my thinking for a lot longer than just when I read this book. But when I saw this book come out, I knew that I wanted to get it because it would be all of his great information put together in one place. You can find tons of information from him in like podcasts. He does a lot of interviews on different podcasts, and his website, Metabolic Effect. There's all kinds of great articles, and I'll link a few down below that are very helpful and hopefully will help you guys. But if you want all the information in one concise place, and his whole plan, his whole fat loss plan, it's all in this book. I highly, highly recommend it. And it just goes into all the detail that you need to fully implement this whole diet and lifestyle that he recommends. So one of the major things that he talks about as far as fat loss is that to have sustainable fat loss, you need two things: a hormonal balance and a calorie deficit. And calorie deficit, I mean, some people don't necessarily believe that, but I'm at the point where I know for my body I need a calorie deficit to lose weight. But at the same time, if you go too low calorie or too low in carbs or fat for your body, it can throw off hormonal balance, and that's going to make you extra hungry, have lots of cravings, and have low energy. And so there are there are so many diets out there, and some of them balance hormones, and for some people that's all that's needed for them, and they lose weight from that. Examples of that is like the paleo diet, possibly low carb diets, just depending on the person and where they're coming from. Some people can go on these diets and not count calories, not have to worry about calories, and they lose weight. For other people, they maybe are already coming from a place of hormonal balance, but they just struggle with overeating, and so they go on a diet that's cutting calories, and it works for them, and they lose weight because they already had that hormonal balance piece. Also, I think that's the reason that a lot of times when we first go on to a restrictive diet or a lower calorie diet, it can be easier, and then when we do it multiple times, it gets harder and harder as we go, because our hormonal balance might not be in the same place as it was when we originally started, because we were coming from a place of being well fed, and hormones were in a good place, and so we were able to lose weight initially. But then being on a low calorie diet for too long can cause your hormones to kind of go out of whack, and then when you try to go back onto a low calorie diet again with your hormones out of whack, then cravings and hunger and energy, it all kind of makes it more difficult. So most of the traditional diets, as in the eat less, exercise more type diets, they give you the calorie deficit part easily, but they often lack in the hormonal balance part, and actually doing the eating less and exercising more for a long period of time can just throw your hormones off and can leave you in a worse place, and in a place where your body is trying to gain weight even harder in the end than you were before you even did the low calorie diet. I know for myself and for a lot of people, they'll go through the whole dieting and they'll diet, and then it's like their body, my body, was more susceptible to gaining fat when I was done than if I had just never done it in the first place. So what Jade Teta recommends as far as keeping these two things for sustainable fat loss, the calorie deficit and the hormonal balance, he doesn't recommend eating less and exercising more. What he recommends, and what he goes into detail in his book as far as the specific plan, is cycling between a phase of exercise less and eat less, and exercise more and eat more. And so you're never in a place where your body is just so taxed by giving it too little fuel and demanding a lot of physical exertion at the same time. So there's two separate states that you're cycling your body through, and in both states you're keeping your hormones balanced by feeding yourself as much as you need for the activity that you're doing. And as far as keeping your hormones balanced, he goes into detail about how you can monitor yourself to know if your hormones are in balance. And he says the most important things to keep track of are hunger, energy, and cravings. And he calls those HEC, H-E-C. So he says you have to keep your HEC in check. And I will put a link down below to an article he's done on HEC and what it's all about, so you can read more about that there, because I know I'm not doing it justice by my brief overview. But that has revolutionized my thinking about my diet and about fat loss, because before I would go on a plan and I would, have cravings or have hunger, and like my mind, I'd have all the dieting mind games where I had to talk myself out of eating something bad and just be miserable. And I was just thinking, I just need to do this, and I need to work harder and have more willpower. And just learning from him that if I'm having all of those cravings and that hunger, trying to fight that for any length of time is going to be futile for me, because I don't have the willpower to be able to do that for the rest of my life. And so if I knew that if I wanted sustainable fat loss, that I needed to find a way to eat less, because I know that that's important for my body to have a calorie deficit, but at the same time still be satisfied and not have that hunger and the cravings, and still have steady energy. So what you do is you have, well, he says you have to be a diet detective, and you watch yourself and you watch your reactions to food, and you learn about what your body needs to keep your HEC in check. And the interesting thing is it's can be completely different from one person to the next. And this is something that's so refreshing for me, because there's so many diet wars out there, like, the vegetarian and the paleo and the low carb and the high carb and the, there's so many. And really what we should be doing, instead of trying to look at every plan and see which plan is the best for all people, we should be looking at ourselves and thinking and trying to figure out what plan works for my body specifically to keep my hunger and energy and cravings in check and still allow me to lose fat. So it could be that one thing keeps one person's HEC in check, and the same exact thing throws another person's HEC out of check. And so we just have to kind of be honest with ourselves and only focus on our own bodies and our own plates to figure out what works for us. Like, for example, for me, I went on low carb. I've been on and off low carb diets for the past 10 years, because that's how I originally started to lose weight. And at first it was fantastic for me, and it was the perfect first step for me. And I lost 35 pounds effortlessly. Well, it wasn't effortless because I was a sugar addict, and getting off of sugar initially is very hard. But as far as, I didn't have to count calories, I didn't have to work on portions sizes necessarily. I just counted my carbs. I did the Atkins diet, and it was fantastic for me. But it worked for a while, and then my body changed, probably hormonally, and I got older. There's all different things that have happened in my life in the past 10 years, and low carb doesn't do the same for me as it did before. So like, things that worked for you before and kept your heck in check before can change, and so you just have to be really aware of yourself and your symptoms, and just what works for you. And so, like, I can't say low carb is the right diet for everybody, because it was the right diet for me 10 years ago. It's not the right diet for me right now. It could be the right diet for someone else, that has a completely different body from mine. So for me at this point, like the last time I did keto, I did 6 months of keto, and I did all the checking my blood ketones. I was keeping my protein very, moderate to make sure I was in ketosis. I did it to the best of my ability. A lot of times people will say, if keto doesn't work for me and work for you, then you didn't do it right. But for sure, I knew I had my ketone monitor. I checked my ketones. I did it for 6 months, and my heck was so out of check. I was craving. I was starving. I would eat and eat and eat of these keto foods, and it was just like I could eat 10,000 calories of keto foods, and I was not satisfied. And then as soon as I ate some carbs, it was like I felt amazing. I didn't have to eat for like 5 hours. It kept my heck in check for hours. And it was at that point that I was like, okay, keto is not for me. I'm not saying it's not for everybody. I'm just saying for me at that point, it was not for me. And I knew that by listening to my body and knowing that it threw off my hunger, energy, and cravings. So basically, since I learned about heck and about this whole approach to making sure you keep your hormones balanced, I have not been able to put myself onto a super strict calorie counting diet or just a super strict diet, because as soon as I did, my heck would go out of check. And I knew from all this information that I was learning that if I just push myself, it will not be sustainable, and I will just end up going and jumping into a pile of cheesecake or something later on, and it's going to be way worse than if I just, stuck to something more moderate, or stuck to something that allowed me to keep my hunger, energy, and cravings under control. And the frustrating thing for me was I could not keep my calories down without my heck going out of check. And so I felt like I did a really good job of focusing on my heck and doing what I needed to do to keep it in check, but I couldn't get the other piece of the puzzle for fat loss, which is getting the calorie deficit. And so that was really frustrating for a long time. And actually what has really, really helped me to get my heck in check with lower calories and allow the weight to start coming off is what I talked about in the Diet Cure video, the amino acid supplements, and I'm also working on my adrenals. I shared a lot about that, and I will share more about the stuff that I have done to help heal my adrenals. But I found that I couldn't apply all the things that I learned from this great book until I kind of got some other pieces in place. And I was still able to focus on heck and kind of be a diet detective in that way, but I was so frustrated that I could not find a way to get my calories lower to be able to start losing fat. And I remember reading this book, and he was talking about the eat less, exercise less portion, and he has a way that you calculate out your macros, and you figure out how many calories exactly you need based on your weight and your activity and all that stuff. And so he has you calculate it out a certain way for the eat less, exercise less portion, which is, he says, 2 weeks, and then the eat more, exercise more portion, which is another 2 weeks. So you calculate it in 2 different ways. And on my eat less, exercise less 2 weeks, it said I needed 1,200 calories. And I was like, I wanted to throw the book across the room. I was so angry because I was like, there is no way that I can eat 1,200 calories and keep my heck in check. I was so frustrated, but that's after, almost a year of, trying to figure out a way to get my calories down and have that calorie deficit and not being able to do it. And so I kind of just put the book away at that point because I was like, I agree with this. I think this guy is right. I understand that this is how metabolism works, and I want to be able to do it, but I am at the point where I can't do that. So what I did was I just focused on what I could do to keep my heck in check, and that meant eating more than 1,200 calories, I focused on what foods filled me up, and just everything that kept my heck in check, and that meant not losing weight for a long time. And then it wasn't until I got the other pieces taken care of, the Diet Cure amino acid supplements and the adrenal fatigue stuff, worked out. And also I think exercise really helped. It seems like exercise helps me keep my heck in check, which was surprising to me, because exercise is supposed to make you hungrier, but it also helps you be more insulin sensitive, which I'm learning. So I think that was another key, but I'll talk about that other stuff on another video. So it wasn't until I kind of got those other pieces in place that I was able to pick up this book again and actually apply it. And it was after I started just kind of realizing that I was eating less accidentally, which never happens. So I knew that something was happening in my body, something good. And I started eating less accidentally, and that's when the weight started coming off. So I got my hormonal balance taken care of. I got my heck in check with the higher calories that I needed. Then I got some other stuff taken care of, and then at that point I was able to have my calories lower naturally, and my heck stayed in check. So basically what I have been trying to do with this information, I haven't gone on his diet plan, which I talked about, which was the 2 weeks of the eat less, exercise less, and then the 2 weeks of the eat more, exercise more. I've just been focusing on keeping my heck in check and focusing on what foods do well for my body and what foods don't. As far as keeping my heck in check, I have been just trying to see and experiment with foods to find the fewest number of calories that will keep my heck in check. And so when you're trying to pick foods to eat, and you want it to be low calorie, but you want it also be satisfying and keep your heck in check, you want to focus on fiber, lots of water, and lean protein. So that is what I have been starting with, is just focusing on what keeps my heck in check, focusing on including lots of those fuel pull foods, and then as much fat or as much carbs as I need to also keep my heck in check, because I know that if I just eat fuel pull foods, I start craving. I need a little bit of carbs to keep my heck under control. I need a little bit of fat to keep my heck under control, and you just have to kind of play with it until he has a starting point where he recommends what works for a lot of people, but he's very clear that you need to tweak this to get it to work for your body. And he gives the example of, if you have your heck in check and you are either maintaining or moving towards your optimal body composition, like if you're losing fat or maintaining a healthy weight, and your blood markers are healthy or getting better, then whatever diet you're doing is good for you. He says if you are eating jelly bellies all day long and you have those 3 things, your heck is in check, you're making progress towards your body composition goals, and your blood markers are improving, then the jelly bean diet is for you. Which, of course, he says that's probably not going to be anybody, but if those 3 things were happening, then you got the right diet. If you're eating 500 calories a day and your heck is in check and your blood markers are getting better and you're losing fat, you are on the right diet for you. So I do try to think about my activity level for the day, and I will, if I'm having a very active day, I will eat more if I need to keep my heck in check. And if I have a less active day, I will feel free to eat less and kind of monitor how I'm feeling. And if I feel fine eating less, then I'll just have a lower calorie day. But I don't ever let myself go hungry, and I address cravings and make sure that I'm, doing what's good for my hormonal balance during the day. But I calculated my macros for the eat less, exercise less portion and the eat more, exercise more portion. And just to give you an idea, mine came in at 1,200 calories for the eat less, exercise less days, and then 2,300 calories for the eat more, exercise more days. So that kind of gives you an idea of the range for kind of, I don't know if I'm an average female, but sure, we'll just say I'm an average female. So another thing that I love about Jade's approach is that it fits with THM principles extremely well. A lot of you guys follow me, do the THM diet or know about the THM diet, where the basic premise is to separate fats and carbs into separate meals so that you're not eating a large amount of fat and a large amount of carbs in the same meal, and that because that causes your body not to be able to burn through it as fast and get to your body fat that you want to burn. So Jade's work just lines up so perfectly, and he's such a scientifically minded person that he has all the science in here, and he talks about the reasons why that happens. In the THM book, they do their best, but it's not super scientific. And so if some of you are wondering a little bit more, want a little bit more detail about how carbs and fat together cause or can cause weight gain or make it difficult to lose weight, I definitely recommend Jade's work. And I just read an article on his website the other day that I will link down below that talks about carbs and fat together and scientifically why eating carbs and fat together will make it more difficult for you to lose weight. But I wanted to read a couple of little excerpts out of the book and just show you how well his work fits with the THM principles that I had already been following and already believed. This is on page 175 of Lose Weight Here. He says, a diet high in both fat and sugar has been shown in mammals to completely disrupt the normal metabolic regulation that occurs with either a high fat or a high sugar diet. So not only is it a higher calorie diet, it also seems to assure that we continue to crave high fat, high sugar foods in the future. The combination of these two items alter brain chemistry in a way that disrupts your natural ability to regulate your caloric intake. The bottom line, fat plus sugar will sabotage your willpower. Now, I have totally noticed this. When I've been focusing on keeping my heck in check, I have noticed that if I eat something that is high in carbs and fat, it doesn't satisfy me long term. It causes me to have more cravings than if I ate the same foods but just separated them into two meals and had the carbs in one meal, and then 3 hours later, like THM talks about, have the fat in another meal. It keeps my heck in check more. So it was really cool to read that and to think, oh yes, I've totally noticed that. And I think that's one huge reason why THM works so well, because when you're eating these foods separately, your body isn't like gonna snap into overeating mode. The way I kind of think about it is, when you eat carbs and fat together, it's like a signal to your body that things are really good right now. Like, we just had a harvest, we just had a hunting kill, and so we should eat everything we can because it might be a famine next week, So it's kind of like the signal to your body to, okay, this is the time to store because things are good right now. And so when you separate those things, it doesn't have that same trigger. And I think that's one of the reasons that THM works so well, is that it just puts a halt on overeating, because you're not sending those signals to your brain. But anyways, that was one of the quotes that I wanted to read. And then the other one I have here, this is just a quick little one. Fat and sugar in combination seem to short circuit the hunger centers, resulting in constant desire for food. Like I said, I have experienced that. We can see that high fat, high sugar foods are not just simply higher in calories, but also alter our body's ability to regulate and suppress hunger, causing hyperphagia, a fancy medical term for continuous eating. And when we add chronic stress to this, we create the perfect fat storing atomic bomb. So anyways, he has lots of great information like that. So I highly recommend it. If you're on THM and you just kind of want to dive deeper and get one more perspective on the subject, something that kind of aligns with what you're already doing, I highly recommend Jade's work. And if you're struggling with THM like I was at the point where I was eating S meals and maybe 1 e-meal a day, and I was eating a lot of baked goods. And what I have found is that I have had to focus on lower calorie foods and find the lower calorie foods that keep my heck in check, because I was making the baked goods, the wonderful THM baked goods, and I was just eating too many calories, and it was having the same effect on me that that fat and sugar together would, like short-circuiting the hunger centers and wanting me to eat more when I was eating these very high-calorie desserts from THM. Even though they were low carb, in my body they were throwing my heck out of check and causing me to want to eat more. So that's one area where learning this information from Jade Teta has helped shape the way that I do THM now. And I focus more on fuel pull desserts, especially ones with glucomannan, because that has the high fiber and the high water content. And then if you add, whey protein or collagen powder, it has the protein as well, which are the 3 things that really help keep your hunger in check. So like glucomannan puddings, and like the fuel pull cookie bowl oatmeal, those kind of things, those really keep my heck in check really well with a very low amount of calories. But other things like the Trimtastic zucchini cake or all those other, they're amazing and they're delicious recipes that are a lot higher in calories, those were not doing me any favors. And they may be perfect for when I am at my goal weight and maintaining, and for some people, they may be just the thing that keeps your heck in check. Like I said, not everyone is the same, and you just kind of have to be a detective and find what works for you. So this is an exceedingly long video, and I hope that it was helpful and informative, and I hope it, if it was, that it spurs you on to learn more from Dr. Jade Teta. I highly recommend his work. I highly respect his approach, and he does such a great job of explaining these things in a super clear way. He's a very good communicator, so I recommend podcasts if he's been a guest on, because he's been a guest on lots of podcasts. Search for those. He has a YouTube channel as well, lots of great videos there, and his blog has all kinds of articles. And then of course, if you want it all in one place, this is the book to get. All right guys, I will link to this book below, an affiliate link at Amazon if you want to check it out and use my affiliate link. That would be fantastic. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. I hope it wasn't too rambly. I hope it was clear enough. I apologize if not. I'm trying my best here. So that is it. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will talk to you again later. Bye, guys.